Welcome to the Teaching Journeys podcast, hosted by Dave Roberts. Humanity possesses a unique skill, the ability to pass knowledge from one generation to the next. This podcast embraces that ability, offering learning opportunities through conversations with extraordinary guests. Dave aims to leave a positive mark on individuals around the world. So before you dive into today's episode, please share this podcast with your network, including friends, family, and colleagues. And please consider leaving a rating or review. Your support makes all the difference.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Teaching Journeys podcast. I'm your host, Dave Roberts, and today it is my pleasure to have as my guest, Jessica Moyer. Jessica is a transformative wellness and leadership coach, TEDx speaker, podcast host, and three-time author who empowers women and leaders to reclaim their energy, resilience, and purpose, especially through life's hardest seasons. With over 25 years of experience and certifications from the Institute of Integrative Nutrition, John Maxwell, and Ziglar Legacy, Jessica equips others to thrive using her signature REAL framework rooted in mindset, meals, and movement. A certified hormone and integrative nutrition coach and grief movement coach, Jessica draws deeply from her personal journey of loss to help others find healing, hope, and wellness. Her faith-led, heart-centered approach offers a beacon of life through grief, burnout, and life transitions. Beyond her coaching and books, Jessica is a passionate community leader who has raised over $2 million for Cure SMA and served in numerous nonprofit roles. She was also founder and owner of a successful gym in Delaware for 5 years. Jessica has been married to her husband, Jason, for 28 years and is a proud mom of 4, including her angel baby, Stephen. Her message is clear. When you lead yourself well, you can lead others even better. And with that, Jessica, welcome to the Teaching Journeys podcast. I've been excited for our conversation for quite a while now.
Yes, me too, Dave. I can't wait to dig in and share all my things and have a great conversation with you.
Yes, and I am looking forward to that as well. And we got to give a shout out to Chris Mamoni. Chris is another podcaster. He is the host of the Empowered Grief Journey podcast. He got in touch with me, told me all about you, and I was excited to have an introductory call with you. And we found that we aligned on quite a few levels, and we find ourselves in the present moment.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Well, thank you. Can't wait to chat.
well, I have a bunch of questions for you, and I'm pretty sure you got some answers for me.
I'll do my best.
I have no doubt. But my first question to kick the podcast off is tell our audience about the experience or experiences that have shaped your life path and your life passions today.
Yeah, that's a loaded question, Dave, but I'll give you a little history of my upbringing and what led me to where I am today. I grew up in a small town in New Jersey in a family of 5 siblings, great mom and dad. My dad was like the small town doctor, kind of took care of everyone in our town. Everyone knew Dr. Smith. And I was a pretty competitive gymnast. So going to gymnastics 5 days a week. I don't know how my mom did it. I swear she multiplied herself, but was in gymnastics and dance and acting and played flute. And so I had a really active childhood. I was very blessed to be involved in so much. Then in high school, I became a cross country and track runner. Gymnastics was not very good for my body after a while and led to anorexia. And so once I healed myself from that, turned to running as therapy. And I just realized I was really good at running. Like it was just kind of the competitive nature in me. And I just felt free when I ran. And so I pursued that through high school and even into college, just a very motivated and driven individual and kind of just intrinsic. I don't really, I mean, I had great parents, but that was just part of who I was. And yeah, so graduated college, became a pharmaceutical rep out of college. I mean, my dream growing up was always to have a big family and raise my kids like my mom did. And so became a pharmaceutical rep out of college. My husband was in optometry school at the time in Philadelphia. So kind of supported our marriage at the beginning. Got pregnant very quickly with my first child, Isabel. And Isabel was born 9 weeks early. So she was a firecracker. She was born on July 4th, but due on Labor Day. So, at 25 years of age, when you're having a baby 9 weeks early, you're kind of in shock. That led to a lot of anxiety and stress at a really young time in my life. Still working as my husband's in school. Um, but, we got through it. And then my husband owed 4 years to the Army because he did ROTC in college. And so when he was done optometry school, we moved to Columbia, Maryland, where he was stationed, and got pregnant with my second son, Stephen. And I'll share more about the experience of loss with him. But really, what's shaped my life experiences is number one, knowing that life isn't always going to be the way you expect it to be or the way you hope it's going to be. And number two, really just digging in and realizing that whatever trauma or situation or loss or whatever's put in our path in life is going to teach us some lessons. And hopefully those lessons will lead us to help others.
Yeah, I think, those are two very perceptive points is that, and I've learned over 22 years ago, I realized, you know, life isn't always fair. Especially with, my daughter's transition from the physical world to the spiritual world. Um, we both share child loss, albeit different circumstances, but we didn't come into this world as parents to bury one of our children. The expectation is that they would carry our legacy and not the other way around. But Jessica, life isn't always fair. We are given one life, and I'm paraphrasing this from a meme that I saw. We're just given one life. It's neither good or bad. Whether it's good or bad is up to us. And
Exactly.
we are going to come into this life experience challenges. The challenges for somebody may be different than it is for somebody else, but it's still tragedy nonetheless. And it's how we transcend those challenges that dictate the quality of our lives and really are the catalyst for us, finding our higher selves, being of service to others, and just living a very purpose-driven life. Our commitment to service comes out of our own tragedy.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the quotes I've listened to and heard several times, it's not what happens to us in life, it's what happens for us.
Yep,
And so we really have a choice on what we make of it.
absolutely. And I think we do have a choice. Um, Even after tragedy does the expected by enveloping us in pain, we can choose to not transform it or we can choose to transform it. Either way, there's going to be consequences. And we just
Absolutely.
have to be prepared for the consequences of any choice that we make. So,
Yep.
um, but anyway, I know there have been two very significant losses in your life. Your son Stephen and your father Michael. Tell our audience about them and what you remember most about their time on Earth.
Yeah. So my second born son, Steven, I noticed very early on, and I could go on for hours, but I'll keep it very short, that he wasn't reaching typical baby milestones. He couldn't move really well. His cry was really weak. He had a concave chest. And just in my mama gut, I was like, something is wrong with this child. And I kept insisting, took him to the doctors. They just said he was fine. At the age of 4 months, it was 2 weeks after September 11th. I took him to Bethesda Naval Hospital and was told on the spot that they were pretty sure he had a disease called spinal muscular atrophy, which at that time I had never heard of. In my mind, I was like, okay, well, whatever that disease is, I can have a disabled child. I'll be fine raising a child like that. And the doctor within the next second said, you don't understand. It's terminal. There is no treatment or cure. And just take him home and love him. That he would most likely not live to celebrate his first birthday. And for any parent that's lost a child, that's the worst news you're ever going to receive, whether it's sudden or it's a time frame of watching your child pass. And that was a really dark time in our life. Yet in those dark moments, there was some light. And, I did that. I took him home and loved him. And what I remember about Stephen is the lessons of he didn't know any different. He was truly, in my mind, an angel sent by God, and he was a gift. And his eyes always lit up. He really couldn't move, but his eyes just spoke years of wisdom, and I can't really explain it. And he could hold on to my my finger with his tiny little hand. And it was hard because I really couldn't hold him because he was floppy. It's called like a floppy baby syndrome because they don't have any muscles. So it was really hard that you can't hold your own child. Um, but I had people come in, I had family come and support me. And my husband was a rock when I couldn't be. My daughter at the time was a little light for Stephen and for me. And so, even in the darkest of times, there were glimmers of light and hope. And out of his life, we have been able to raise over $2 million. And today, there are 4 treatments for SMA, one being very recent. That's almost a miracle drug. Although it's very expensive right now, I do believe the cost will come down. But to see that in my lifetime is truly to me a miracle, that it made me feel kind of full circle that I'm able to help other parents. So yeah. And then after the day after Stephen's funeral, I had a miscarriage and then I had another baby and another termination in utero. And so just like a 6-month period of loss. And then a few years later, my dad was diagnosed with lung cancer and pulmonary fibrosis. And my parents have always been rocks for me, but there's always been a very special bond with my dad. And it was a blow. He didn't really share how bad it was. He was a doctor himself, and so he was good at kind of hiding it. And I think sometimes that there's people listening and they've experienced this with their parents, they kind of don't want their kids to know.
Mhm.
Um, but that was tough to see my dad, deteriorate and pass away. And it was just a really tragic time for our family because he was kind of like the glue. So but, we do a lot of things in his memory, and he was just another light in the world that, I think of him and I smile on all the great memories that were created because of him.
Yeah, I mean, you had two very significant losses within a short period of time. Stephen, which no parent should ever have to go through this existence burying a child, but unfortunately it occurs more often than maybe a lot of people who haven't had that experience know. And then your father, who, like you said, was a rock in the community, was a rock to your family. Um, those are two very significant losses and two very different trajectories of loss. One, you're Stephen up very sudden and and your dad, that was very progressive. And having, my daughter and another person I cared about deeply, watching them deteriorate from cancer, there was grief before the grief for me with that. Um, and I can imagine having those two specific losses plus a miscarriage loss in between. I would imagine that had to be at times overwhelming and very traumatic.
Yeah, and again, there's been so many people that have walked through this journey, and a lot of them don't share it for whatever reason that is, but people shouldn't suffer alone. They should reach out and ask for help. And fortunately, I had some good support at the time. And so, if there's anything I can, for anyone listening in their audience who feels alone, and I know Dave, you're the same way, like we're here to support you and
Yep.
listen. We can't take the pain away. The only thing that heals is time. And that doesn't mean that you're always going to have a scar. It's always going to open a little bit, and to me, when it opens, it's now these fresh of memories and goodness,
Mm.
despite the sadness that surrounded it.
Yeah, I mean, you make a great point is that we can't do this by ourselves. We need a community to support us. One of the things listening to you talking about the impact that Stephen's short life had on you and your family is one, he taught you. If that were me, I would think, boy, he just taught you about unconditional love. And
Yes.
the second thing is he brought your family together as well to support him and you guys to work together to make his end of life chapter meaningful, full of love, and his legacy continues to live on with the money that you've raised for SMA. It's just fabulous.
Yeah. I remember when we started the chapter even before he passed, and because I had support from some other SMA mom, and our first fundraiser was July. And I just remember thinking, wow, all these people came together to support us and to donate money to help find a cure and to raise awareness. And that was just an amazing experience to know that in his short little lifetime that this was part of what was created. And I've had some amazing experiences because of him and met some amazing people that I never would have met.
Yeah, it's unbelievable how tragedy brings people in our lives that were meant to be in our lives at that particular time. And, the people that have come into my life have come into my life at the time that they were supposed to. And they provided me comfort for short or long periods of time. Whatever they provided was needed for me to get through a moment or a series of moments.
Yeah. Yeah. Some people come into your life for seasons and others are, there for a lifetime. And fortunately, I've had people that have been there for a lifetime.
Hmm. Yeah, and a lot of times individuals will complain that the people that they thought were going to show up for them didn't. But I try to tell them focus on those people who are there because
Yeah.
those are the ones that are going to be of immediate assistance and support. The other individuals who may not feel equipped to be of support to you at this particular stage of your grief or phase of your grief may surface at another time and when they're ready. But everything is fluid. Support groups are fluid. But what is constant is after tragedy, our life changes in a lot of different spheres.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I just had a conversation today with a few girlfriends who didn't know me at the time. And I was sharing, I was only 28 when our son passed. And we did lose a big group of friends because they didn't know how to support us or to be there. And I don't blame them. Like,
Mhm.
I might have felt a certain way at that time, but that's just what they knew to do. They didn't know how to handle grief because no one around me was losing a child, thank goodness. And people almost think it's contagious. It's scary. It can happen to you. I remember thinking, meeting other parents who had lost children before our son was diagnosed, thinking, I just can't ever imagine. And then when you're in that situation, you're like, wow, like, how is this my life? Right. But
Mhm.
like you said at the beginning, life is not fair. And why not me?
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, why not? What have you found to be the most helpful for you in working through your grief? What has been the least helpful, Jessica?
I think the most helpful is being able to support others. And in the process of healing, because it did take me a long time. I mean, I had two more healthy boys. I had to go through a lot of testing to get to that point. I raised my kids. I was a stay-at-home mom, worked at night in the fitness industry. And I was in survival mode, which Dave, I'm sure you can also experience the one foot in front of the other. And I did all the mom things and did all the things in our community. I think what helped me the most was being able to support others and be there for them. And also my fitness journey, meaning how I showed up for myself running, like that was therapy for me, movements
Mhm.
therapy. And that's why I'm very passionate about promoting self care because when you go through these times, a lot of people just crumble and they become sick themselves. They lose motivation to take care of themselves. And a big part of my platform is that in order to show up for other people, you must be healthy mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically. And so that's kind of morphed into my message because Stephen never had the opportunity. And my dad, chose everyone else and really neglected his own health. That's what my TEDx is about, actually. So pouring into others, but after I realized I had to make sure I was filling up myself and then being able to teach. That's why I went to Ziegler and John Maxwell and all the certifications. And probably the least helpful, that's a really good question. Probably like just learning not to dwell on the past,
Mhm.
not just in grief, but in some other experiences I've gone through in life where you've been hurt, is to let go and really to let God in and to not live in the past. It doesn't mean it's not going to creep up, but it's not a good place to stay. The past teaches us lessons to propel us forward.
Yeah, I mean, we need to honor our past as our teacher because the past has rich lessons that can help us in the present. It can orchestrate our future. So to disown the past or disregard the past, we are disregarding a part of our own existence
Hmm.
that contains rich lessons. So again, that's another great point is that, well, let's heed the lessons of the past, but not stare at the past and
Yeah.
keep asking ourselves, what if we did this or what if we did that? One of the things that has always irked me to an extent is when somebody will ask a question, well, if you're going to talk to your 20-year-old self, what would you say? And I would say, 20-year-old self, you did the best that you could given what you understood. what you knew, because if you knew everything you needed to know at 20, there wouldn't be any room for growth. So don't change who you are. Just take every experience as being in service to yourself and allow that experience to be a motivator for you to continue to grow, to continue to progress, to continue to find your higher self. So, yeah, I'm not one for talking to my 20-year-old self.
Yeah, that's good. But if I could go back, I would say to be more present
Hmm.
because I feel like I'd miss out on so much because I was always thinking about the next thing
Yeah.
and the next thing. And I think that comes with grief too. But I think if I could not change my past, but if I could say, okay, just stop and be
Hmm.
present. And what we're talking about really, it's the name of your podcast, the teaching journeys. We have our past, present, and future, right? And
Yeah.
you're going to learn from your past. And yeah, it's cool. Kind of full circle there.
Yeah. That's also Crow medicine too, from the Native American culture. It's honor the past as your teacher, honor the present as your creation, and honor the future as your inspiration.
Yeah.
So it's the older I get, the more Crow medicine surfaces in my life. And I'm great. I'm fine with that because everything that's happened to me has served to teach me and to
Yeah.
allow me to continue to grow. Now, getting to miscarriage loss, what is important from your perspective for clinicians and coaches to know to effectively hold space for women who have experienced miscarriage loss?
I think to honor that it was a life.
Yes.
And for me, it was a very different experience because I miscarried because of the trauma I held in my body from what I had just went through with my son. And so I believe that's probably what happened. Then when I got pregnant again, the baby was positive for SMA. And this is very controversial, but it's in my book. I share it openly. My husband and I were faced with a very tough decision that we were very judged upon because, oh, that won't happen again because with SMA, it's 1 in 4 chance that you'll have a baby with SMA. And we were faced with a horrible decision. And we just knew after just watching our son die and not a very, very bad death, uh, that we just couldn't do it again. And so for coaches and clinicians and doctors is really, like you said, holding space and listening. Nothing we can say to heal someone because I believe healing happens within us.
Yeah.
And it's when we're ready to move forward and learn and grow from that experience. You hear all the cliches, well, you can have more babies or, all of that stuff. Just like people, oh, you can have more kids. What happens is very real to your body
Mm.
and acknowledging that and just really listening and letting that person just cry, yell, speak, whatever they need to do.
I remember there was a woman that I was working with when I was an addictions counselor, and she was 36 years old. She relapsed. She had cocaine addiction. She got pregnant. She had birth canal surgery because she really wanted to have this baby, and she was worried that she was not going to be able to have another child again. And then she had a miscarriage, and I would check in with her and say, how are you doing today? And she would say, I'm fine. And she was one of these women on the outside, really tough, very street smart, but she was hurting. And then all of a sudden, her primary counselor was not there. I had worked with her the first time she was in treatment, but I was a supervisor when she came in the second time, and her primary counselor was off. She came into my office, Jessica, started crying her eyes out, and she told me in detail about her miscarriage. And I felt honored that she trusted me enough to do that because a lot of women may not have trusted that story with a guy.
Yeah.
And she trusted me with it. So the first thing I asked her was, what do you need from me right now? She goes, I need you to leave. Now, she kicked me out of my own office, okay, because she needed the space. And you know what I did? I went to my desk, made sure any confidential information was off of my desk, locked my computer. So, not that she would have tried to get in,
Yeah.
but that could have happened. And I left. I checked with her probably about 10 minutes later and asked her if it was okay for me to come in. And she said it was. And then we ended up talking, and she couldn't have another child. So for anybody to say that, well, you could have another child. Well, how do you know that? Or it was a lost pregnancy. I've heard this before. Well, it was a lost child. I mean, my wife bore 3 children, and she said the minute I found out that I was pregnant, that was my child. And I think it's important for clinicians and coaches to understand that, because miscarriage loss can be disenfranchised if it is not acknowledged as child loss.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So, and thank you for sharing that part of your journey with us. Let's talk about your work with women. I know you're passionate with helping women live their purpose through a healthy lifestyle. First, what exactly do you do? And I'm sure part of it's the real framework that we've talked about. But what do you do specifically to help them achieve their goals? And how has your personal journey informed what you do with women in the coaching field?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I think I make women feel at ease. I don't feel like I'm intimidating. It's kind of come as you are. And when I owned my gym in Delaware, that was the vibe. This was a space for anyone to come and just improve their life, whatever that looked like. And I've been very open about my journey. So I think that makes people feel more comfortable, that I don't put on an act. What you see is what you get. And the foundation of our life is really our health. And when I say that, I mean your mental, emotional, spiritual, physical. But I've worked with so many people that are ill or sick. They don't feel well. I think so many people are walking around and they don't know what it feels like to feel good.
Yep.
They're used to just feeling crappy. And I've worked with so many women, and I work with leaders too. It's not just women, but I've spoken with a lot of leadership groups, because again, we can't lead from an empty cup or being sick. And so really it is listening to what their needs are, what they're struggling with. There's a lot of women who have raised their kids and neglected their health. And then when their kids are, moved out or moved on, they don't know where they're like, what did I do? Like, how did I wind up like this? Right. And you don't realize it in the process because you're just busy getting by and living and surviving and doing all this stuff. And so the foundation of the framework is, number one, being realistic. You see it all the time in the news or social media, all these quick fixes to health. But unless you are realistic with what you can achieve in a certain amount of time, it won't last.
Yep.
And so the whole framework is based on, number one, the L is loving yourself, respecting yourself, knowing you're worthy to have that time to take care of yourself, whether it's a workout or prepping food or getting enough rest. I mean, we could go on and on about health and nutrition. And then the R is making realistic changes. I'm sure you've read the book Atomic Habits, is creating small changes that add up, being resilient, because we're going to fail. I don't know anyone that has not failed in their life. And if there has been someone that has, I want to hear from them. And then using the right energy sources. A lot of people are spending way too much time on social media or TikTok or whatever. And they say they don't have enough time to take care of themselves. So you really have to look at, where are you drawing your energy from? Are you putting the right food into your body? Think about how food makes you feel. Are you moving throughout the day? I have a private group called Real Wellness for Women, and I talk about quick workouts you can do. Having the right people around you. So there's all these different sources of energy, and it can either deplete you or it can add value. And then taking action, because this is the part that people get stuck on, that I've seen in all my years in the wellness and fitness industry, is it's that analysis paralysis. Like, they want to do it. I don't know if I can do it. I can't. They make excuses. So it has to be important enough, and it has to be realistic enough to achieve. So whether that's, 4 pounds in a month, whether that is bringing your cholesterol down, whatever it is that you want to focus on, kind of becomes how we create some goals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I like
Did I answer your question? I feel like I went around in a circle there.
No, you answered my question perfectly. I mean, you gave me the framework. And now, is the real framework aligned with your work with integrative nutrition as well too, or is that different as a complement?
No, it's the same. Actually, I have my workbook that I created out of that. And honestly, I'm actually working on like my kind of TEDx style speech for next year. And you can apply this framework to anything in your life. So whether it's relationships, work, wellness, whatever it is, it's this framework can work for anything. The foundation is having love for yourself and taking care of yourself. And then again, it's how do you achieve something? It's
Mhm.
creating realistic steps to get to that point, and then you build from there.
Yeah.
Having the right sources of energy. So this framework can be used for really anything. I created it because I realized the women who were succeeding long term, these are the things they were doing. These were the steps they were taking. So that's kind of how it came to be.
I think that's the key. I think with any wellness program, any healthy lifestyle program, it has to be consistent and it has to be long term, just consistent. And progress is not going to be linear. There's going
Yep.
to be days you're not going to feel like working out. There's going to be days that you're going to deviate from your nutrition plan. But you can plan those into your time so that, because it isn't healthy to deprive ourselves. So, occasionally for
No.
me, I like to just say, oh, like I'll treat myself to, we have two very good local bakers in this area.
Hmm.
So when I want to go off my eating plan, it's either a caramel apple crisp cookie or a peanut butter chocolate half moon. But I don't
Yep.
do those every day, but I plan for this day to do that.
Yeah.
And what I've also learned is that having one meal where you eat what you want or eat a dessert that you want doesn't mean that your whole nutrition plan needs to be scrapped.
Yep. Yeah. And I think people get very bogged down by that. So full disclosure, I have dessert every day. I'm not going to, like you said, to me, it's moderation, not deprivation. I'm not
Yes.
going to eat a whole
Yes.
bag of cookies. I really do try to stay away from processed foods. I don't eat fast foods. And if I do, it's very rare. And so it's really that whole 80-20 rule with anything in life. But I do. I had a piece of chocolate before we got on here. Like, so it's learning moderation and not going overboard and being
Yes.
greedy with food, if that makes sense. Like it's gonna be there.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, you touched on that. Great point. And here's the thing, Dave, you're better off going to a bakery that's cooking it, making it fresh, than getting something that's sitting in a bag for days,
Yes.
months, because that's where disease and inflammation are
Yeah.
ready for you.
Well, the other thing with integrative is nutritional supplements like turmeric. Turmeric's a great natural
Yep.
anti-inflammatory. I've taken turmeric for years. I remember a few years ago having a bone spur in my right heel that would just act up and I would limp tremendously. After taking the turmeric consistently, that's gone away. It's not even an issue anymore.
Yeah.
Complementary medicine or approaches can't compensate for traditional Western medicine can. And together, that integrative approach improves physical health outcomes, improves mental health outcomes, improves our lifestyle choices that we make, and helps us lead on a path of just generally healthy living and
Yeah.
productive living.
Yep. And I think this is where grief and health can kind of come together is you can't put a Band-Aid on it forever. You have to get to the root cause and address it. And if you're not willing to pull it out of you with grief and loss or trauma and deal with it, just like our health, there's only so many times, so much you can take medications to suppress diabetes, or you got to deal with what's going on.
Yes.
And if you can do that, you can heal yourself. And
Yeah.
that means mental, emotion, all of it.
Yeah. And it's basically with food, it's just redefining our triggers with food and redefining our relationship with food.
Yeah.
Um, when I started on my healthy lifestyle plan 5 years ago, where, I've lost 70 pounds and I've kept it
That's
off.
awesome.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, I came to a point of reckoning where I had to do something.
You had a
And
come to Jesus talk with yourself.
I absolutely did. I had several come to Jesus talks with myself, just to keep me motivated as well too. But um, my wife said, "Geez, I mean, it means I got to hide all the sweets because she loves sweets." I said, "No." I said, "I am not going to be able to redefine my relationship with food if the food that has triggered me in the past for unhealthy eating habits isn't available. I
Yeah.
need to be able to look at that and say, okay, how can I redefine my relationship with it? How can we live together without me consuming you every time I turn around?
Yeah.
How can we
Yeah.
coexist peacefully.
Yeah. Food can either be poison or medicine.
Mhm.
And sugar is addictive. And I was addicted to sugar in my 30s and early 40s. So I get it. And it
Yeah.
takes a lot of work. But anything's possible.
Yeah. Well, I commend the work that you're doing with women, with leaders. I think it's much needed, and particularly in a society where obesity and, sedentary lifestyles lead to all kinds of physical issues. I'm glad you're doing what you're doing.
Thank you. You can tell I get very excited about it. But it
Well,
really stemmed from what I'd been through in life. I mean, I've always been an individual interested in that. But when you see someone you love that never even had an opportunity to live life, and then you see someone, my dad, who really, showed up for everyone else and neglected himself, that really is a kind of awakening for my message.
well, I think the choices we make professionally are informed by what's happened to us personally,
Yeah. Yep.
and particularly when it leads to meaningful work, why not?
Yep. Exactly.
Now I know you've written two books. The first one you could show your your
Oh
real
yeah.
workbook again. Um,
Yeah. So these are two of my books. The third book I was a co-author in, but this was the book I wrote. Okay, there we go. I
yeah, there you
wrote
go.
this over COVID. It
Mm-hmm.
was one of my goals when I went to do the Ziegler Legacy certification, and what a perfect time to write a book. But really, it was the tools that kind of helped me work through the healing journey.
Mm-hmm.
And I share my story pretty intimately in that book. And then the real wellness framework I published last year, just to support individuals in just living a better life.
Yeah, and those are two books that I would, just because knowing the backstory with all of them, what's motivated the creation of those, I just I would recommend to my audience that they check them out, pick them up,
Yeah,
because
thank you.
they'll certainly, I think, give individuals a different perspective, enhance their own perspective, maybe motivate them to achieve things that they may not have thought they could have achieved. So yeah, I mean, I think, what you've done, I would, like I said, highly recommend those writings just based on what I know of you and our conversations. So,
Well, thank you, Dave.
well, you're welcome. Now, you have just entered the podcasting world. Am I correct?
Yes, and it's scary and uncomfortable, and I'm dipping my toe in because one of my coaches has kind of pushed me that way to say it's time to get your voice out there. So it's very new.
Mm-hmm. Well, tell us the name, what inspired the name, and what you hope
Well, it's the
to
Real
achieve.
Wellness Podcast, right? And so it's all things wellness, kind of what I talk about in my framework. My most recent one was like planning the new year. One was about like navigating the holidays
Mm-hmm.
and learning how to navigate the holidays in a healthy way.
Speaking of navigating the holidays, what advice, tips can you share for individuals who are finding the holidays so stressful after tragedy?
Yeah, tomorrow I'm actually leading a workshop on that. I've done a few in the past 2 months on just this topic. And kind of the things that have helped me is number one, honoring the person that you've lost in whatever way feels good for you. Like we always have a stocking in memory of our son. We always honor a space at the table we talk about. And, we only had him for one Christmas. So my boys didn't know him. Maybe it's doing a donation in the memory of someone, but really honoring that person and sharing memories is very important. And again, letting go of expectations and just being. Because I think when we set up these expectations and they don't work out, it can be really depressing and overwhelming. And also having a network to lean into. Like if you're expecting to feel that way, to talk about it.
Yeah, and in particular, like you said, releasing expectations, particularly about family gatherings, about other commitments that you might have made to go to a holiday
Yep.
party. Just let people know that, the day of the party, I may just decide that I just can't do this emotionally, and I just show me grace if I need to back away. It's nothing personal. It's just a way for me to take care of myself.
Yeah. You mentioned grace, and I have to share this real quick. This is part of my book. I have something called the 5 gift mindset, and grace is one of them. But something I shared in my book was, and these are tools that I learned really over the period of time that I realized this is how I kind of survived and moved forward, was the gift of gratitude, which I know I'm sure you've talked about in several podcasts, is really acknowledging the things you're grateful for in life, because we all have them, and that can change your perspective on your day. Generosity, so small acts of kindness, seek that out. Every morning I ask, how can I put someone in my path that I can just pour into, whether it's a
Yep.
smile or a compliment? It can just truly change your day in someone else's. Growth, like listening to a podcast. I do Wordle every day, like challenging yourself. I shared with you earlier, and I can't share too many details. I did a reality competition last week that was so outside my comfort zone. So seeking out those opportunities. Um, Grit, like digging deep, we're gonna fail. And then grace is practicing that forgiveness for yourself and others.
Yep. And yeah, and forgiveness is something that I mentioned on other podcasts. It's an easy word to pronounce, but it's a tough state to achieve.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
when I've talked to other individuals who have practiced forgiveness, they've always said it's more for me than it is for anybody else. And it just
Yep.
allows you to let go, not to forget, but to let go and give
Yeah,
you a
it frees
measure
your soul.
of peace. So,
Hmm.
but yeah, I mean, anytime when you're ready to launch that podcast, you have a guest right here. If you
Yep.
provide you think
We
I got something to
Yes,
offer.
Dave is my first guest, we've decided. So, stay tuned on the Real Wellness podcast in January. He's gonna
You
guide me.
you got it. And you heard this audience. So for some reason I'm the second guest. We have this on tape.
No,
So
you're gonna be my first guest.
uh,
As soon
well,
as I figure it out.
hey, time is relative. And the way I look at it, we're all on Spirit Central time anyway. So it's
Yes.
going to be ready when it's ready.
Yep, exactly.
Jessica, one of my last questions for you this evening is if you would like to leave our listeners with one ultimate takeaway today, what would that be?
I think for me, the word that comes to mind, well, I have two words: legacy and health. Because if you don't have your health, you can't create a good legacy. You can't do all the things, you can't lead. And so to really give yourself a good look, am I showing up the way I need to? Am I fueling my body the right way? Am I moving my body? Am I honoring the body that I have been given by God? Because
Mhm.
there might be people listening that can't do certain things, right? But wherever you're at, to show up for yourself the best that you can and to honor the gift that you are, to create a legacy. And I know for me, I want to create a legacy for my children, not financial. I mean, that would be great, but
Mhm.
I want them to remember on how I showed up for myself to show up for others and be able to pour into others. But I couldn't do that if I didn't come from a healthy place.
Yep. And your legacy isn't just about monetary abundance. It's abundance in relationships. It's abundance in giving. It's abundance in those people that you have around you to support you. It's family. It's, in my case, it's my students who enrich my lives every day. That's how I measure legacy and abundance now. It's a variety of different things. And most of it is not material. As long as I have enough money to pay my bills and I'm comfortable, I'm happy.
Yep.
Now, going to give you an opportunity to promote yourself a little bit. If listeners want to contact you, contract for your services, purchase your books, what's the best way for them to do that, Jessica?
Yeah. So right now, my new website is launching probably next week, but it'll be launched by the time this airs. So it's www.jessica-moyer.com. And so they can connect with me there. Social media, it's Jessica Smith Moyer on Facebook, Moyer.Jessica on Instagram. My Real Wellness podcast, pretty much my main platforms right now. I'm going to be growing, but for now, that's where you can connect. And Dave, I'm also going to offer any listener that's interested a coaching call if they want to talk about how they can improve their overall health.
Perfect. And I'll make sure all of that information, your contact information, your offer of the coaching call.
Yeah, I'll send you a link.
Yep. And send me the link, and that all of that will get into the episode notes. So,
Great.
Jessica, thank you so much for a wonderful conversation this evening. I truly enjoyed it. We ought to do a follow-up podcast at some point down the road.
I would love that.
I would too. So, and with that, That's a wrap on another episode of the Teaching Journeys podcast. I'm your host, Dave Roberts, wishing you peace.